ago did you do Nova Transition?
2009.
What was your dream job when you arrived at Transition?
I walked in to this exact room, sat down with Cass. He's like, what can we do? What job would you like? You know, expecting me to say retail or admin. I said radio, and her mouth dropped. And she was like, sure, we can help you with that. Not really knowing where to go or how to start looking.
From what I've heard, you had already done a fair bit of groundwork.
Yeah, I pretty much did all the groundwork before I left school.
So what was that groundwork?
Ringing up radio stations, getting work experience for the last couple of years of school pretty much every day. Community radio, commercial radio, Power FM in Nowra, Eagle FM in Goulburn.
You really made contacts, got experience. So what did you like about that work?
Interesting place. To meet people every day is different.
You enjoy that challenge and that vitality, that interest.
Yeah, and also the creative side of it too. There's a lot of creativity.
To be flexible and adapt to whatever's going on.
Yeah, well, exactly. And even, you know, working in production.
And so here you are, fairly skilled in the technical and the art of presenting radio. But how did Nova Transition help you get a job?
It was sort of more prepare me for the outside world. Hadn't moved out of home yet. At that point, I was mum and dad this, mum and dad that. You don't get that experience until you moved out of home and gone away somewhere.
But Nova helped you transfer.
Yeah, to transfer into that. This is what you need to do. This is how you survive in the outside world. This is how you go about doing day-to-day tasks.
Can you give me some concrete examples of the things that you learnt while the 2 years in transition?
You learn about OH&S,
Yeah.
which is a big thing in the outside world, you know. When you're picking something up, don't bend with your back. Just safety, basically, around the workplace. Also, interview skills. I didn't think of it at the time when we were learning about it. I'm like, whatever, I don't really, you know, I don't care. And then I got into the workforce and I'm like, I should have paid attention. I should have, you know. Interview skills is very essential because you're going to go to a job from transition and from there you're going to start doing interviews, and that's when you need how to be positive, how to be... Present well. Presentation was a big thing. Also, communicate with people in a better way than you normally would. In a business-like sense, more than a g'day mate, how you going sort of sense.
Well, speaking of interviews, you've just had one today, so I'm sure you've been drawing on your Nova Transition experience.
I've done a lot of interviews, sort of second nature now. I know what to do, I know what to say, I know how to go in, I know how to dress. Some people can walk in in shorts and t-shirt and thongs. Not really a good way to enter an interview. My very, very first interview was just before I came to Nova. I rocked up. It was at a supermarket. It was a rainy day and my driveway isn't concrete, it's gravel and mud. And I ended up flying out there, looked at my watch, I had 3 minutes to get down to, you know, the supermarket. Nice clean white shirt, flew out on my bike, got mud all over my clothes. Walked in there and sort of slapped and whatever, like,
You didn't get that
job. But
you learned through Nova, you learned why you didn't get that job.
Yeah, pretty much.
The next interview you had, you got that job.
It was just after Nova. I just finished 2010. I just graduated from Nova and I've just gone to the seaside. I just finished a meeting with my EC and my dad calls me to go, hey, there's a job going on. Oh, yeah. I said, where? And he went, Alice Springs. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, bye. And it was like, whatever. And then Dad rang me back and he goes, maybe you should go for it because you never know your luck. Like, you know, you don't know if you don't apply.
Yeah.
So I applied. That was on the Tuesday. On the Thursday, I get a phone call to say, hey Corey, you've been shortlisted out of you and someone else. I went, oh, okay, so it's a 50-50 chance by this stage. 24 hours later, or about maybe 26 hours later, it was 5 p.m. I was on a bus heading into Barrel and I get this phone call. Hi Corey, it's Bruce here from Alice Springs Commercial Broadcasters. Yeah, look, you've got the job. When can you start? Oh, 2 weeks. He's like, great, see you in 2 weeks. Well, that eventually led to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Had to move out of home. First time I moved out of home, I was only 19 at the time, 20. Yeah. First time out of home, moved out of home, got everything shipped up there. I moved the following week. We left and it was 10 degrees in Sydney at Sydney Airport. We got up there and it was 41.
Oh my goodness. Sounds like it was summer then.
It was February the 26th I moved up, 2011. So...
And you just mentioned before that Nova helped you work out how to live independently. For goodness sake, you went not just from your parents' house up the road to a flat.
No.
You moved to Alice Springs. What were some of the challenges of
moving up?
Yeah, and then the work.
Moving was difficult. Saying goodbye to Mum and Dad, that was hard. Dad left first and Mum stayed for another week. Just to make sure I was settled in. The radio station gave us 2 weeks accommodation at the time. And that worked in my favour because they had a flat that they'd lease out and then to any new person that moved up there, and it was at the back of the CEO's house, so that's where I lived for 6 months. So I moved in there and got everything sorted there. But yeah, saying goodbye, once Mum left the airport, I was like, great.
You're on your own.
On my own, so where do I go from here? What do I do? I don't know anyone in Alice Springs. I haven't met anybody. I've only met one person today, the big boss and the other, my actual boss. I haven't been to work yet, so I don't know anyone from work. That was hard, first couple of weeks.
How did you manage it?
9 months I went without knowing anyone.
So you didn't make any friends while you were there? You were pretty much working there.
I was working there, I'd come home, I'd cook, I'd go on my computer, I'd sit on Facebook for 6 hours when I got home.
So you're connecting with the people back home?
Yeah.
Still. And look, this was a 9-month contract?
18 months.
18 months.
An experience I'd never forget. I mean, I went to Ayers Rock twice, saw it at sunset, saw it at sunrise, climbed it. Pretty cool. But in terms of work was the challenge. Getting to know people, getting to know the structure of how things worked. Didn't need to know too much about the production side of it because that was my forte. Announcing, because they gave me an on-air shift on a Saturday and a Sunday morning at 6 a.m, which wasn't great. No, not getting up at that early in the morning. It gives you self-discipline to get up that time in the morning as well.
Yeah, for a start.
I mean, I was getting up at 4:30 on a Saturday morning to go to work. Interaction with your listeners. I got to give things away, like give prizes away, CDs away, and money away.
So now, are you still looking for work in radio? You are?
Yep.
Yeah. But today's interview was in a separate field?
Today was in if you're going to talk music and sound and music companies, then it was in that area.
And you're smart enough to know that you're not necessarily going to get the dream job every time.
No.
But a related job's not a bad fit.
Exactly. Like, I think I was lucky to get a job that was straight into what I wanted to do. But as things go on, you'll learn this in other trainees that are going to go through transition. You will learn that not everyone in your workplace, you're not going to get along with everybody. You're going to have yelling fights. You're going to have people abusing you. You're going to have, and in my job, that was certainly the case.
And what you're saying is, it's a really interesting workplace issue, is that you're coming in at the bottom when you start, but you
sort of advance your way up, and you gain a lot of respect.
But at the same time as you're advancing, you need to know the difference between learning your way around, learning the ropes, and being bullied.
I mean, it's a cutthroat industry. If you don't perform, you're gone, because there's another one person waiting in the wings to try and snaffle your job.
Sounds like you did perform.
Yeah, and then, my boss came to me and was like, if you need anything, just ask me. Unfortunately for him, I was asking questions every 15 seconds for the first 4 months. My boss was excellent. He knew more about my learning disability. He understood all of that. He came to me, he's like, dude, anytime you want to go back home, just say the word for a weekend or whatever. I went, but work, he goes, family is more important than your work. So, it was fantastic to have a boss that was really encouraging. He'd done my job for 11 years before me, so he understood where I was coming from. If I'd get frustrated, if I was getting angry, if I was getting
confused needing more information.
Exactly. And that's another thing. If you're running late, tell your boss. I learnt that the hard way, where I just, I rocked up one day. I was supposed to start at 7:30. I didn't rock up till 10:30.
And you hadn't told him?
I hadn't told him, so he was sort of panicky and was like, why didn't you tell me? And don't get too complacent with your job either. I did. I've made this commercial, gone home, put it on the system, ready to go for the next morning. Next morning they played it, and there was 1.5 minutes of silence at the end of the commercial. It's a big no-no. I didn't check it, didn't play it back, just chucked it on the system. That was my sort of reality check.
That's a really good piece of advice. It doesn't matter what job you're doing, whether it's cleaning or preparing food or being a radio host.
Check your work.
And take a bit of pride in it.
I've got to kick up the butt. Reality check of, hang on, home was just got fired.
You can apply that to all the other jobs that you do.
Yeah, and even in general life. Don't get complacent with life either. Driving a car, don't get complacent. You'll end up on the side of the road, wrapped around a tree.
Yeah.
But, it was a great experience to have. I mean, I met some amazing people, interviewed some really big names in the music industry, so that was kind of... Stan Walker came into my office. Sneaky Sound System came into my office. Reese Maston I interviewed over the phone. Most of these guys did the whole X Factor Australian Idol thing. Sneaky Sound System are a Sydney-based band, massive in the dance scene. Yeah, so it was great to get to chat to those guys, and People don't think, oh my goodness, they're famous. They're everyday people like us, going about their business like any other person.
Same troubles, challenges, and enjoyment.
Life will throw you a curveball. Never got that too. I interviewed Jessica Malboy, who is originally from Darwin, the Northern Territory.
Yep.
Ian Moss. Mossy is an Alice boy born and bred. Parents would know this.
Yeah.
Is an Alice boy.
So he would have felt at home.
He was. But we had heaps of fun. I mean, there's this guy that moved in 6 months after I did, and him and I get on the house on fire. I mean,
so you've made friends through the work.
Yeah, they're all there to do a job, but 99.9% of the time when I said you're going to have your issues and stuff, work's sort of like a family. You'll have your fights, you'll have your good days, you'll have your bad days. You'll cry with your work colleagues over something. You'll, go out and party with your work colleagues if you're that way inclined. Like, it was a good experience.
So the last question I have for you, Corey, is if you met someone in the street who was considering coming to Nova Transition, what would be a few pieces of advice that you'd have for them?
Go and speak to them first. Go and talk to the job coaches.
Find out about it.
Find out about it, basically. More information. How's it going to help my kid? At the end of it, is my kid going to succeed in something they want to do? And if you're persistent with something, persistence pays off eventually. I was persistent with radio. Look what happened. I'm still damn persistent. I haven't worked for 11 months, so I've moved back in with mum and dad. I'm back to square one again.
Well, but not really.
I am, in a way that I haven't got a job, and I'm out of the radio industry now. And that's one thing. If you're going to get to a specialised industry, stay in the industry. Do not leave because you think, something better is going to come down the track. It could be a while away. That's what I'm finding now. I left to come back closer to home without having a job to go to. So if you're going to leave a job, make sure you've got a job to go to before you leave.